Well, there is an independence movement in Alaska. They were at the meeting I referred to at the State House.
Unfortunately, they're very right-wing controlled and basically have a lot of ties to the Republican Party. We need to make sure that in Vermont that we don't have any such delusions as to be associated with such monstrosities as the Republican Party in any way, shape, or form. Now, that's not to say, individual Vermonters, if you want to be Republican, knock yourself out. But that means that you could do that, but if the majority of the people want to have an independent nation the way it used to be, then go ahead and be a Republican in an independent state, and go ahead and want all the evils of the federal government to continue on. It ain't going to happen in Vermont anymore. So those Republicans would be basically have the rug pulled out from under them. They wouldn't have any power, or they wouldn't be able to control the rest of us the way they do now with their ideology.
I would like to present a more optimistic view than you do, though, that if Vermont becomes independent, we were independent back in the 1790s, and we're all alone, nobody else becomes independent.
Or 1780s.
1780. It's possible the other states might remain with the empire. I think Vermont could do just fine all by itself. We're on the Canadian border. We're also in the St. Lawrence River. There are 2 islands that are part of France. We can trade internationally, and there are small nations such as the Jamaican Republic and Iceland.
Yeah, but they're islands.
Well,
now, Canada is just as infected by corporate fascism, which is redundant. Fascism is corporate rule, as the U.S. is. Maybe not quite as bad, but it's there already. And France also has corporate fascistic control over its government to a great degree. So the idea that it's just the United States isn't correct, unfortunately.
Well, I'm a socialist. I'd like to get rid of the corporate fascism. I agree with you there. And I would hope that Vermont would follow a pattern similar to what Sweden is now, and we could have democratic socialism and take care of everybody with single-payer health insurance.
I think we need more population to do that, but I don't want to debate the figures because it's all debate. There's nothing you can put your finger on completely and say conclusively, this is so or this could be done. I don't think, because it's debatable. But what I keep falling back on is the idea that nothing happens in a vacuum. If a bill in the State House said we're declaring ourselves an independent nation, that will be because the people elected enough representatives to get that done, which means the people are already on board. If the people in Vermont are already on board, it won't end in the borders of Vermont. It will cause, I don't want to say a domino effect, I certainly don't want to say infect the other states, but it will help those who agree with us that it can happen in their localities too. And I think what we'd see very soon would be a United States of America that would look like Swiss cheese, and the holes would be getting bigger and bigger. It wouldn't happen in a vacuum. So there would be partners for Vermont. They would be with a new mindset that no one entity is going to gang up on another entity and become what the United States was, which is a kind of divide, rape, pillage, and conquer rule attitude. I think that there would be an awakening, a kind of a 21st century enlightenment. This has been dreamed about very intellectually, I want to stress, for decades now, that the 21st century could be this, and it can. That's the wonderful thing. It can. All this can happen.
Part of this domino effect could involve, you mentioned Canada, Quebec could separate, and that leaves Eastern Canada on one side and Western Canada on the other.
The Maritimes.
And so New England could join with the Maritimes. And
totally possible. Yeah. And be a unit that would help each other and promote each other and be free of tyranny, of corporate tyranny. That's what we're suffering under. You know, it's really a shame that the Tea Party people and the right wing in general are up in arms to some degree because they're afraid that the UN or something is going to take over the country. The UN is a helpless little insect controlled by the United States, which is controlled by corporations. Corporations control the UN. It's not that way. Black helicopters don't come from the UN to take us over, so-called. It's the U.S. government that is the big pig, the monster. That's corporate HQ, Washington and New York, primarily Washington. That's where the muscle is. And that's what the Tea Partiers miss. Completely, totally miss that. They're already suffering under a tyranny, not of socialism, unless you want to call it National Socialism, which is to say Hitlerism. I would agree with that, but they don't know what National Socialism is. You know, they're just looking at Obama and they're calling him a socialist. I mean, for him to have promoted this health bill, which is the greatest single act of pure fascism, which is not socialist, it's right-wing corporatism, that has ever happened on earth. Which is to say, he's, in this bill, there are paragraphs that say people will be imprisoned and or fined if they don't pay money to a big insurance company. Now that's fascism. That's insurance company control of the government, taking the government, the power of the government, and creating laws to force people to give it money. How is that not slavery in an economic sense? Not in a ball and chain sense.
But the ball and chain comes
but that's,
if you don't pay.
The Democratic Party did this. Barack Obama did this. Again, the government is not your friend. The government is your enemy. The government hates you. The government is the terrorists.
Well, let's get back into your political background. In 2008, you were the Green Party candidate opposing Senator Leahy for the
in 04.
In 04 for the United States Senate.
Yes.
So you have a long history of the Green Party affiliation.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the Green Party has been pretty much eviscerated by the Democratic Party. After Nader did very well in 2000, in 04 and again in 08, a lot of people who took over control of the Green Party were singing the Democratic Party song. Oh, he threw the election to Bush. Well, the fact is, I'm sorry to say, the Supreme Court gave it to Bush, and there wasn't a Democrat in Washington, D.C. to raise a damn finger about it. What happened in Florida that the Green Party was supposedly responsible for was that there were more Democrats in Florida who voted for Bush than who voted for Nader. Gore won Florida on a recount. The Supreme Court stopped the recount. Shows you what an evil bunch of thugs the Supreme Court is and was. The Green Party wasn't responsible for any of that. The Green Party wanted to stop all the crap that's been going on ever since Bush got in and ever since Reagan got in. But the people of this country are wedded to the fiction that they must support the Democrats or the evil Republicans will take over and vice versa. And they're both wrong because they both parties support the same set of evils. And the sooner people wake up, the sooner that will end.
But the Green Party has an international...
But the Green Party is now basically shriveled, limp rag of its old self in the years of Nader and following. When they actually had a little bit of political muscle, thanks to him. And so they've been taken over by the Democratic Party, essentially, just like, by the way, the Tea Partiers were taken over by the Republican Party.
But our viewers have voted for the Green Party in the past here in Vermont.
Yes.
So I'm sure they'd be interested in where the Green Party stands right now.
It doesn't exist in Vermont right now.
In southern Vermont.
in anywhere in Vermont. There is a Green Party in Burlington, so-called, but it's a little party run by sort of a cult of personality.
By Steve Eckberg, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
And Steve Eckberg is right in some of the things he says, but his unattractiveness to people helped cause the downfall of the Green Party in Vermont.